Hello everybody, I'm Sujibala and I'm going to present my seminar topic on the novel Mayor of Casterbridge written by Thomas Hardy. In this novel, we can discuss about three important topics, that is themes, symbols and motives. Themes. Marriage is a transaction. Marriage dominates the plot of the Mayor of Casterbridge. At starting, Michael Henchard shows his cynical disillusionment with his marriage, which has lasted only 2 years, by selling his wife. Late in the book, Henchard's stepdaughter Elizabeth Jane weds Donald Farfrae. In between, marriage as an institution is subjected to the author's severe scrutiny with very mixed results. Throughout the novel, Hardy implies marriage all too often involves cynical exploitation or manipulation. Henchard handles his relationship with Susan as a commercial transaction, buying her back for the same price as he sold her many years beforehand for 5 guineas. Lucetta furnishes another example as she manipulates her prior link to Henchard and then angles for her marriage with Farfrae instead. Townsfolk such as Joshua Job and Nance Mockridge, in their drunken revelry at the Skimity Ride, don't really seem to care about upholding the moral principles of marriage. They are simply indulging their envious and vengeful natures. Elizabeth Jane is the only major character to stand apart from the story's intricate marriage webs. Elizabeth Jane advised Lucette it would be best to remain single, but she ignores. Elizabeth Jane's marriage to Farfrae near the novel's conclusion seems likely to succeed. But then, as Hardy might phrase it, there is always the persistence of the unforeseen. Fate or destiny. Fate or destiny is a leading theme in most of Thomas Hardy's novels. Hardy typically views fate as arbitrary but inalterable and often inexplicable. In chapter 41 of The Mayor of Casterbridge, Henchard exclaims about the Skimity Ride and the effigy he saw in the water. Likewise, the persistence of the unforeseen at the end of the novel intervenes to frustrate Henchard in his attempt to ruin Farfrae. Henchard makes a mistake, but on the weather, having superstitiously consulted the weather prophet Mr. Fall. As a consequence, he suffers huge losses. Farfrae, on the other hand, buys grain when prices are low and make large profits. On a less dramatic scale, unpredictable weather at Casterbridge results in the failure of Henchard's plans for a festive public entertainment. Hardy dramatizes the role of fate or destiny in numerous ways in the novel. Long absent characters such as Joshua Job and Richard Newson unexpectedly reappear to play a major part in the action. Situations and conflicts undergo unanticipated reversals, the friendship between Henchard and Farfrae, the shift in Lucette's affection, and the belief Henchard is Elizabeth Jane's father. For Hardy, in the end, the role of destiny in human affairs is inscrutable. Rivalry. Rivalry is a major thematic strand in The Mayor of Casterbridge. This theme is most clearly illustrated by the competition between Henchard and Farfrae, which unfolds in many different spheres of the two men's lives. At first, friends and quasi-partners, Henchard and Farfrae contend against each other in the grain business, with Farfrae adopting an ethical approach and Henchard behaving bitterly and obsessively. In politics and society, Farfrae slowly gains influence and prestige and is finally installed as mayor of the town, while Henchard suffers disgrace and humiliation. In romance, Henchard also loses out to Farfrae when Lucette rejects him and weds Farfrae instead. Finally, Henchard's morbid fear of losing Elizabeth Jane is borne out when she marries Farfrae and reapproaches Henchard for having lied to Richard Newson, her real father. Although he is absent from of the novel's pages, Richard Newson is also portrayed as Henchard's rival. This is most apparent in Henchard's morbid anxiety about Newson replacing him in Elizabeth Jane's affections. In Newson's own account of his marriage to Susan, it is clear Susan saw the two men, former and present husband, as rivals. Deception. Many characters in The Mayor of Casterbridge engage in deception, lies, and half-truths come to dominate life in Hardy's fictional world. The results of such behavior are nearly always damaging. Susan deceives Henchard in thinking he is Elizabeth Jane during the initial research for Henchard, telling the young women they are trying to locate a relative or connection by marriage. Toward the end of the novel, Henchard lies to Newson, telling him Elizabeth Jane is dead. Lucetta also practices deception when she pits Farfrae and Henchard against one another. She conceals her past links with Henchard from Farfrae, and she conceals from Henchard her secret marriage at Port Bredy. Henchard is highly forthright about the most shameful action in his past, the auctioning of his wife to the highest bidder. When the fugitive woman discloses Henchard's secret, the former mayor is disgraced. Finally, the townsfolk who organize and participate in the Skimity Ride are masters of deception, frustrating the rusty-jointed executors of the law. In Hardy's fictional world, deception is so rife it appears to be an integral part of human nature. Pride. The theme of pride in the novel is closely related to the themes of rivalry and deception. Pride motivates many of Henchard's actions and conflicts, both external and internal. Pride plays a role in his decision to surrender his gold watch at the bankruptcy proceedings. Likewise, pride seemed to be the most likely motive in his decision to tie one arm behind his back in the fight with Farfrae. Late in the novel, when he returns to Weydon Prior, Henchard refers to his cursed pride. Like Henchard, Lucetta has a complex past and anxiety about maintaining her pride and dignity. Her love letters to Henchard pose the most serious threat, and this accounts for the importance attached to them in the plot. When the letters' content become public knowledge and Lucetta is publicly mocked in the Skimity Ride, her pride is dealt, quite literally, a mortal blow. On the other side, Elizabeth Jane, who copes with her displacement by Lucetta in Farfrae's affection with equanimity. Second is Farfrae, whose pragmatism and inherent good nature keep him from succumbing to fits of pride even when he becomes mayor. Finally, Richard Newson is patient and sympathetic enough to step aside in Susan's life so she can resume her relationship with Henchard. Symbols. 5 guineas. A guinea consists of 21 shillings or 1 pound plus 1 shilling. This is the price Newson pays when Henchard auctions off his wife, Susan, at the Weydon Prior's fair. At the end of chapter 10, when Henchard writes Susan a note asking her to meet him at the ring, he encloses 5 guineas. Hardy draws explicit attention to the symbolism. The amount was significant. It may tactily have said to her that he bought her back again. Henchard's relationship with women lead to many problems and conflicts for him. He dismisses Susan several times for her meekness, and he has no idea how to deal with the flighty Lucetta. In chapter 12, he goes to the extent of asking Farfrae, then his assistant, to frame a letter to Lucetta even as he deceives Elizabeth Jane. All too often, Henchard's relationship with women seem transactional. As he says at the end of chapter 12, can't it be that it will go off so easily, now then, to make them amends to Susan? The 5 guineas he sends Susan then symbolically suggests Henchard regards his intimate human relationship as a commercial transaction. At the beginning of chapter 13, the narrator says Henchard pursues his quest for a remarriage to Susan with businesslike determination. Skimity Ride. As a pivotal event in the plot, the Skimity Ride is fraught with symbolic significance. Above all, there is a symbolism suggested by the effigies. Seated back to back, the man and women mocked by the procession are physically and visually inverted, suggesting the illicit nature of their relationships. They are seated on a donkey, a notoriously randy animal, signifying lust motivates their connection. The intensely public nature of the Skimity Ride, advertised by loud clangor and inebriated revelry, signifies shaming and exile from society. On a deeper level, the Skimity Ride signifies the immense, potentially lethal power of public opinion and the ominous menace of mass psychology. Characters like Joshua Job, Nance Mockridge, and Mother are motivated by malice, envy, and resentment, not by an authentic concern for social morality. The forces driving these characters are traumatized when they egg each other on the whip by their followers, even to the extent of opposing more moderate views such as those of Solomon Longways. The Skimity Ride then symbolizes the breakdown rather than the reinforcement of the social order in Casterbridge. It is motivated by petty nastiness and selfish indulgence, and it leads directly to Lucetta's death. Goldfinch. Henchard chooses a goldfinch in a cage as his wedding gift to Elizabeth Jane. At the beginning of chapter 45, she finds the bird dead of neglect. Goldfinches were especially popular as caged birds in 19th century Britain. They are handsomely colored and very small, seldom exceeding 5 inches in length, and they have a pleasant twittering call. The goldfinch initially suggests Henchard's love for Elizabeth Jane, but its cage and death foreshadow Henchard's own death as he is imprisoned by the conflicts and disappointments of his life. The image of a caged bird may also evoke a passage from Shakespeare's King Lear. Motives, coincidence. Even the most cursory reading of Mayor of Casterbridge reveals a structural pattern that relies heavily on coincidence. Indeed, the story would hardly progress were it not for the chance occurrences that push Henchard closer and closer to failure. The reappearance of just one long-lost character would test our willingness to believe, but here we witness the return of the Susan, the furmity women, and Newson, each of whom brings a dark secret that contributes to Henchard's doom. Hardy's reliance on coincidence relates directly to the philosophy of the world. As a determinist, Hardy believed that human life was shaped by the free will, but by such powerful uncontrollable forces as heredity and God. Henchard rails against such forces throughout the novel, lamenting that the world seems designed to bring about his demise. In such environment, coincidence seems less like a product of poor plot structure than an inevitable consequence of malicious universal forces. The tension between tradition and innovation. Casterbridge is at first a town untouched by modernism. Henchard's government runs the town according to quaintly traditional customs. Business is conducted by word of mouth and weather prophets are consulted regarding crop yields. When Farfrae arrives, he brings with him new and efficient systems for managing the town's grain markets and increasing agricultural production. In this way, Henchard and Farfrae come to represent tradition as an innovation respectively. As such, their struggle can be seen not merely as a competition between a grain merchant and his former portage, but rather as a tension between the desire for and the reluctance to change as one age replaces the another. Hardy reports the succession as though it were inevitable, and the novel, for all its sympathies toward Henchard, is never hostile toward progress. He also reports a passing from one era to the next with a quiet kind of nostalgia. Throughout the novel, there are traces of a world that once was and will never be again. In the opening pages, as Henchard seeks shelter from his tired family, Hafizan laments the loss of the quaint cottages that once characterized by the English countryside. The tension between public life and private life. Henchard's fall can be understood in terms of a movement from the public arena into the private one. When Susan and Elizabeth Jane discover Henchard at the Three Mariners Inn, he is a mayor of Casterbridge and its most successful grain merchant, two positions that place him in the center of public life and civic duty. As his good fortune shifts when his reputation and finance fail, he is forced to relinquish three posts. He becomes increasingly less involved with the public life. His ridiculous greeting of the visiting royal personage demonstrates how completely he has abandoned his realm and lives wholly with his private thoughts and obsession. He moves from the commercial to the romantic, concentrating his energies on personal and domestic relationship with Farfrae, Lucetta, and Elizabeth Jane. Thank you.